not to grant a foreign currency denomination loan or foreign currency linked facility to a customer who is not a foreign exchange earner. The statement signed by the Secretary of the Bank of Ghana also said the orders follow a revision in the mode of operations by the Bank of Ghana for the foreign exchange account and foreign currency account holders, etc. I have to start off with John Kumar. What do you make of this?
Yes, let me say good morning to your listeners and say that I am a bit surprised at these directives.
Really?
Especially
these are normal economic directives. Why should you be surprised?
And because of the implications for the economy, it appears they are not dealing with the core value or the core reasons why these depreciations keep happening. All economic matters, especially whether it is to do with the currency or whatever, is to do with demand and supply on the market. As long as people want to demand for the dollar, the value of the dollar will go up. And you can only stop that problem when you create demand for your currency, which is the cedi. It appears we are not dealing, I'm saying I'm surprised at the directive from government because this directive is not tackling or dealing with the core root of why the cedi is depreciating.
Which is, your estimation?
Which is creating demand for the cedi.
But is that not it?
No.
So you create a lot more demand.
You are only restricting access to the dollar. But you are not creating demand for the cedi.
When you restrict access, then people are compelled to use the cedi a lot more and thereby creating demand for it.
Yes, but that is not the approach because on the market, when you want to create demand and supply, you have to create value.
Sure.
And that is what is missing in this directive. What government can do is to ensure that maybe you expand in the long term, you expand our industry so that more exports of our commodities from Ghana, you create demand for the cedi. People want items from Ghana. All right? You are exporting not just the raw materials from Ghana, but you process it.
But that's in the long term. That's in the short term.
In the short term, you don't even go where they are going. I was taking it stage by stage so that you understand. But the point is that what is lacking from this directive is to create bigger black market for the dollar. And that, in the end, will rather increase the demand for the dollar. Because the point is that the market forces is regulated by demand and supply. And when more people want the dollar, okay, and you have restricted them to say $10,000 per transaction, and people want say $100,000 or $1 million at a time, what do you think will happen? You are forcing them to go behind the regular process to acquire the dollar. And that will happen because why is it that we are in Ghana and people are not comfortable to quote their items in cedi? Because there is too much.
Has always happened. It's not as if this is...
No, but it appears that
it's a phenomenon
the higher they restrict the access to the dollar, the higher the depreciation of the cedi we see. Has that not been the case? Because since they started regulating how much dollar you get per transaction and all that, it has rather increased the demand for the dollar. And that's why I'm saying they are not creating value and creating demand for the currency. You can only do that when you have stabilized the economy. You create demand for your system, you create jobs. And you see, I believe, with the little information I've had from people I've interacted with, I think our matters have worsened with this Anti-Money Laundering Act that we passed. And now, any transaction or monies that come outside Ghana, even $10,000, $5,000, $15,000,
it's scrutinized.
It's seized. And
through
the bank through the FIC and Yoko, they seize these monies. People, and if you seize 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 from, say, 100 people or 1,000 Ghanaians, and you freeze their accounts, what you have done is that you are preventing inflow of foreign currency into the system. And when you prevent the inflow of the foreign currency into the system, it means that you are starving the economy of that needed resources to respond to a particular need of the economy. So we have to look at some of these laws that are strangulating the economy and making things so difficult.
Okay.
When you don't do that and you come with even higher restrictive measures like we are seeing, then we are not resolving the problem.
We'll talk about the Financial Intelligence Center and the regulations that have been passed, the anti-money laundering law, etc., which we know that also has been some level of compulsion as a result of, the geopolitical system we have currently. Ghana is not living in an island, but what do you make of...
We will talk about that.
Yes, of course. What do you make of the current directive by the Bank of Ghana? It seems a very panicky situation, so to speak. Doesn't give people confidence.
Thank you very much, Roland. Good morning to viewers, and good morning to John.
Yes, bro.
I don't know why you use the word panicky, but I think first of all we must appreciate the situation we find ourselves. We must try to understand why we are here in the first place. Without understanding, you will not be able to provide a solution.
Okay. So give us a briefing then.
Yes, basically, if you ask me to give a briefing about this currency crisis, people seem to allude to the fact that, there is demand. Of course, the basic principle of economics is demand and supply. But then the basic underlying principle of economics itself is not demand and supply. It's about the insatiable need of man. That no matter what you do, man is insatiable. That if you do not check demand, demand will keep on rising. That is the basic principle of economics. And if you're looking at this dollar crisis, this dollar issue, John talks about the fact that we don't need to restrict the demand, but all we need to do is to make sure that we rather bring in more. And he's not against the dollarization. But then I think that when you look at the situation, the main causes of why the cedi is depreciating, dollarization, yes, is one of them. There's an issue of evaporation of funds, which we will technically refer to as capital flight. Again, this is a new year, and you are in a largely import-based economy, where the thriving sector, the sectors performing so well, that is the services sector. 90% of this sector is not in the hands of local. What is the participation of local players, and what is the ownership,
etc.?
Exactly. Those service centers, the tourism, the telecom, or the sectors that are doing. What is the participation? First of all, you need to determine a level of participation. Secondly, you need to determine a level of ownership. In terms of ownership, it's zilch. It's almost non-existent. What happens is that at the end of every calendar year, or business year, let me use a technical term.
We see this very trend.
Exactly. At the end of every business year, where these sectors have made so much money for your economy, but it cannot stay because the dividend they have to pay up. First of all, they have to pay dividends to their shareholders who are not in your country. How does this happen? We need to also find out, how do these companies even get the dollars out? And once the demand is high, vis-a-vis demand of dividends by shareholders.
We do understand. So these restrictions, and you have adequately enumerated what might be the causative factors. But as far as we're concerned, if you put restrictions on these in terms of what the transactions should be in dollar terms, etc., don't you create panic situations by not giving the needed confidence to whoever has invested in your country, whoever is even a local investor, that perhaps you don't seem to have a hands-on approach to the current problems or ailments that seem to be afflicting the economy?
I think at this point in time, everybody should be lauding the governor of Bank of Ghana.
But nobody's criticizing him. People are just concerned.
I'm saying
concern is not criticism.
I've not said anybody is criticizing. I'm saying we should be lauding. We should be lauding BOG for taking this particular initiative. First and foremost, when you talk about concern, investors want to look at the economy. That's the first indicator. The first indicator is the economy. And what does this measure seek to do? To bring out a robust economy. When the city is stronger, we'll be having a robust economy. And that is the first indicator investors are looking out for. So if we are to talk about the issue of investors, even local investors, the local investor also want a stronger city. So that when his goods are even on the market for after a long time, he knows that, we talk of something of a forward rate. He or she can predict that after 3-4 months, the cedi is not depreciating. When he prices his item, he knows that he's still going to make a certain decent margin on it. Those are the indicators we need to look at.
All well and good. All these you have said. And now that we have always identified the problem that has always confronted an economy like ours. We have a huge trade deficit. Our exports largely are lower compared to what we import. And so when we have some of these deficits, which are not in any sense marginal, it means that we need to pose it forward, better concrete measures than we're doing now. In the long term, do you think that government so far has shown the ability and the commitment so far?
Oh yes, in the long term.
Apart from these short-term measures.
Exactly. I mean, we've all known about the short term. When we talk about the long term, we are looking at the structural economic change. And I think that the Minister of Finance has been speaking to this issue about the fact that we need to diversify the economy. Diversify in terms of the fact that we don't need to rely so much on the resources from oil. We don't need to rely on taxation from import, but the fact that we need to move away and, for instance, diversify agriculture. We need a strong production and base in Ghana. Thirdly, which is the most important and key, is the fact that we need to specialize. These days, I mean, manufacturing of products, which is a tangible good, is becoming obsolete in terms of export. If you look at what we import here, the products are not as much as services. And like I said, our thriving sectors all add up to this. I mean,
the difficulty that
can all be concluded.
Mr. Spencer, the difficulty that many critics have is that we know the problem, but we're not resolving the problem.
No.
Just the last couple of days, the National Buffer Stock Company,
exactly.
The news was being speculated, and even also confirmed by the sector minister, the Minister of Agriculture, that it has to be privatized because the last period they were not able to meet their target of buying enough to shore up when there are shortages within certain parts of the country.
I totally disagree with privatization, outright privatization. What we have done wrong in this country over the years, I mean, in terms of with regards to almost every government, is the aspect of privatization. When we are privatizing, we end up privatizing the state resources. We need to privatize management. If you tell me we should privatize management, where people come in, where competent hands come in, and they know that they're not going to be reshuffled after the next government after the government is out, then you know that you are bringing in people who are competent, who are qualified, who can deliver to the good people of Ghana. But here is the case that we end up wholesale privatization, where we privatize the resource itself, and that has not inured to the benefit of the Ghanaian. It's unfortunate.
Well, Kuma, we're talking about measures, and so far, would you say that the measures that you're seeing being taken by the Bank of Ghana, of course in support with the Minister of Finance, gives you enough confidence for the short term, for the medium term, and particularly for the long term, because really we know what the problems are in the economy?
Let me state clearly, I disagree with the Governor of Bank of Ghana on this directive. I think that it is restrictive and will create contractions in the economy. I also believe that it will create bigger black markets for the dollar or for the foreign currencies in this country. And let me also say that it is not necessarily bad that you have a weak currency. And all over the world, weaker currencies in a very thriving economy serves as an advantage. For instance, America is always fighting China to increase the value of its currency because it's creating an export advantage for that country. So it is not necessarily bad that you have a weaker currency. What you need to do is to take advantage of that situation and increase your export. But that is why I'm saying we are not taking advantage of the linkage. Even industry, when you open industry, for instance, through PSI you create cassava and starch. You don't create or you don't develop your agriculture in such a way that you have constant supply of the raw material. Like you go to Palugu tomato factory, the farmers are not able to produce enough tomatoes to supply the industry. So the linkages from agriculture through industry to sustain the currency and to create value and demand for the currency is not there. And my brother spoke about the need to look at even foreign percentage in terms of control of the economy and resources with dividends and all that, which is very true. But it will take the government to come out with policies that is directed at helping indigenous companies and Ghanaians, not just to take government money in the name of training people and wasting it under JIDA, but developing products or helping private companies who are doing something like, I like the idea of EDIF, where they are using, monies to help people create products for export, which is excellent. When we are able to expand the economy in that direction and create more value and demand for our currency, and take advantage, even for the weaker currency we have, we can take advantage to do more export and expand the economy.
So your concern is that the measures really
it's not resolving the problem at all.
Now, how do you perhaps justify the argument that towards the beginning of this very fiscal year, we had an increment in VAT, whilst we've had some reduction in some corporate taxes, etc., for the private sector. But at the same time, these have not been shored up because we've had an increment in VAT and some other level of taxes. So these tend to strangle the local industry players. And at the end of the day, these are some of the foremost measures that would have inured beneficially to the private sector, Ghana's private sector, where we even have local indigenous companies operating.
I totally disagree if you want to contextualize it in this argument
that we're making.
I totally disagree. I mean, we're looking at when we talk of weaker currency giving the local producers an advantage, it's only academic, and we must understand that in economics. You see, ceteris paribus, I mean, all things being equal, a weaker currency will give you an export advantage. How does that happen? Economics is not like most subjects. You need to contextualize it in an argument. How does that happen? It only happens if, for instance, you're getting all your resources locally produced. In this case, let's look at our industries. 80% of our industries rely on imports to produce their...
So we need to reverse the trend. That's the whole point of the argument.
No, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Even the best-known economies of the world, those are the best arguments that they always make.
That is not the issue. The issue is that I am saying a weaker currency does not necessarily yield to export advantage. It is academic, because when it comes to the practical aspect, we need to contextualize. And I'm saying that most of our manufacturers rely on imports as imports of raw materials. So that will not necessarily lead to an advantage for them, because the currency.
So we need to change that.
No, we don't need to. What we have to do, like the directives, of course, if you need dollars, if you need to import, the directives is, listen. What we have in this country is the fact that we have the regulations to control foreign currency transactions, which we do not implement. For the very first time, I am hoping that as the directive has come, is going to be implemented to the letter. Let me tell you what happens in this instance. You need dollar, okay? There's speculation that, the city is weakening. One of the causes, or one of the effects, is what we are seeing, where local, you and I will now walk to the bank and open a bank account, and then quickly put our money in dollars. That is
because you want to make a windfall.
Exactly, but that is not supposed to be.
But that's basic business principle.
No. Yeah. Do you pay tax on it? Are you going to pay tax? All over the world, every serious economy, all over the world, when you change money, forex, there's VAT on it. In Ghana, you can go to a forex bureau and there's no VAT. Government is not benefiting. When you go to the bank and decide to put your money from cedis to dollar, which you have no intent of using, you have created a demand, a false demand, an apprehension, which was caused by negative speculation or positive speculation, whatever it is.
We do understand the economics of it, yes.
Exactly. Now, let's come to how to resolve it. To resolve is the fact that, listen, you've made a transaction in dollars. You now pay, your account is in cedis, they will pay for you in dollars. It does not mean that they will not pay. Businesses should not have any qualm of worry. Businesses should rather be happy because their currency will be a bit stronger, and that in the foreseeable, when this is implemented to the letter, in the foreseeable future, let's say within 3 to 4 months, when the city will not just stabilize, it has there's a possibility of it picking up. When this picks up, and you're doing same transaction, you realize that you need less CD than you used to some years back or some months back. Is that not what we are looking for? We are looking for a diversified, robust economy.
We're not going to see a massive improvement.
No,
as
you
far
will
as,
see
we'll see a
massive-
stability.
You will not just see a stability. There's the possibility of growth. There's a possibility of appreciation, which we must understand. And that is why I said, when it comes to issues of economics, it's best or better for us to appreciate the problem before we try to proffer solutions. Other than that, we'll be patrolling and be going run the issue and without talking substance. I appreciate John's position when he talks about the fact that
economics is a science, and people need to have scientific values to be able to. So that's what they're doing. So
you see, I like practical things because I'm a practical man. If I need $100,000 today, and you have restricted per these rules that I can only exchange $10,000 per transaction in a day, it means that I'm going to have to take 10 good days to get $100,000 from any forest bureau in this country.
So it delays your business activity.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. That's the reality. Let's talk reality.
You need 100,000 cedis for what? For a business transaction.
I said $100,000
As a goal in a particular
in this
day,
country per these rules.
For your account.
You to keep in your account or for a business.
Forget about what I need it for.
That is the point.
No, take
You
your
can't
time.
take 100,000
You see,
and
you
put it in
don't
your
determine how people. You see,
if it's a business transaction, it will be
take your
conducted
time,
through
take
the
your time.
local currency.
Take your time.
So there's no fear.
You don't determine. It's not about your fears. You don't determine what people use their monies for. But the hypothesis of the situation is that if I need $100,000, okay, and I'm now restricted to $10,000 per transaction, it means that I will require 10 working days.
You will not
to
require. You will be investigated. You need it.
Why do I have to go through investigation to get $100,000?
Why shouldn't you?
If it, I mean, and that is where I am telling you that they don't even understand the implication of these rules, and they are bringing it. It's going to create black markets. No, I'm coming. So instead of waiting for 10 good days to get my $100,000, any practical businessman will go behind the black market and get his $10,000 in a day. So you don't come out with these restrictive rules and expect to see any progress on the economy.
All right.
It is not going to happen.
John Kumar, I think I would want to ask and make some clarity. Do you agree that in many very developed economies, you don't go and make transactions in large amounts with their local currency without being looked at skeptically? You could be investigated because there are restrictions on it. For example, in the US, you can't repatriate. I believe we all have friends and relatives who tend to repatriate.
You see, this program is not about emotions. I am dealing with the practical situation.
There are restrictions. Do you agree?
coming. There are restrictions. Who said there are no restrictions in this country already?
So
let's not talk about restrictions because there are enough restrictions under our law when it comes to handling currency in this country. There are enough. What I'm saying is that you are over-restricting the economy. Please, just relax. It's not about Kufo.
No, I'm telling you, it's about being enforced.
Don't worry. Don't worry about enforcement. You see, let's have a decent discussion. We can disagree, but at least let's make our points. What I'm saying is that it is not proper to bring this regulation. We already restricted. We are over-restricting it. And this so-called investigation in overseas, you see, it is so easy for the American system, which is so formalized, and many Western countries which have a more formal economy
to detect
those loopholes. Now, our economy is informal-based. And anybody who has dealt with the Ghanaian economy will never advise any government to go the direction that they are going. Because we are more informal. Look, people are happy today and with this directive, and even before this one, the last one they brought about opening a foreign currency account and what you have to go through transferring, it takes days to even exchange. Yes, but that is the problem. You see, in business, in an informal sector economy like Ghana, when you restrict a businessman for that number of days, you go to the black market. That is why I'm saying that when you are bringing out policies, like he said, contextualize your economy.
You can get fake dollars.
Well, that is the danger you face, but there's also the possibility that you are going to earn you are going to get a good dollar and on a good value and on a faster note. You get it. So you also have to contextualize the economy we're dealing with. Okay. The kind of people we don't even trust the bank system. So many Ghanaians prefer to keep their monies in their bedrooms.
So people may be having these in
Let
their
me
houses
tell you,
or in their
if we
safes.
carry on with this kind of policies, very soon people will be keeping their money in their fridges.
Safes.
Not in their fridges.
But people can buy safes now. They go to Malcolm and things.
People will be keeping their money in fridges.
Okay, so I get your
It
point.
will be better to keep your dollar in fridge than to in a fridge
so
than
Spencer,
to do this.
you agree that the steps being taken in the short term by the Bank of Ghana is the best thing for us to do?
Yes.
Do you think that government, the Ministry of Finance and the allied institutions really have posited good suggestions and good policies, perhaps, that will stem the depreciation of the cedi in the medium to long term?
Yes, I do.
Because so far we've enumerated what the problems are.
Yes, we have.
But in sight, we've not really seen what the assistance will be.
And unfortunately, to all those who are opposed to these short-term measures, they've not really.
Are they opposed? I think they're only skeptical.
Yeah, they are clearly. He said he disagrees. When you disagree, you're opposing. Except when you want me to use another word. But clearly there are people who are opposing this short-term medium or this short-term measure. In money markets, short-term is even
the best.
No. The word short-term is subjective in the money markets, in the finance market, and even in it varies. But let's just stick to short-term as in from now to 6 months. We want to stabilize the currency in order to stabilize inflation. What people do not forget, or what people forget, is the fact that there's a relationship between forex and or your currency and inflation.
And relatively inflation.
When yes, it's an inverse proportion. When your currency depreciates, inflation shoots up. When your currency stabilizes, inflation stabilizes. When your currency starts to appreciate, inflation.
It depends on what type of economy in which you operate in. So let's not go to the business, the economic side of all the arguments.
We have seen a single-digit inflation for 1 year and interest rates hovering around 30% in this country.
No, I just want to propose your argument because we are not. I think we all have some level of knowledge on the subject.
So I'm trying to break it down. Now, what we are saying currently is not just that. We see when we talk about inflation, we are talking about living conditions. It's going to go up. Because if you go to the market today and
relating to the prices of goods and services.
Exactly. So how do we stem these issues?
But it's also because the type of economy we have, and
because
ours is more import driven, so we're likely to suffer more. That's why the link that you're creating is more.
The import driven economy that we are talking about, if you are to move away, it is a long term. That's what it requires a structural economic change. It is not 1 year.
Which is not happening now. You need to start from
The
somewhere.
question I asked you was that
it's not happening in the first
all
place.
The phrases you're using, the structural economy, are you seeing that the steps have been taken?
Nothing.
And that is why I said
nothing is
okay, let's move the discussion. If you're seeing it, then let's move the discussion. So John Kuma, whether you like it or not, these are the restrictions put together by the central. Well, it may be unfortunate to you.
It's very unfortunate to the economy, not to me.
After a comprehensive analysis of the current state of how the variables are shifting within the economy, seems to think that these are the best steps that need to be taken.
It is a wrong step.
The last time I was reading something that had been written by the head of, or is it the chief executive of the managing director of Stanbic Bank, Alassane Andani, and he noted some of these inferences and said some of these long-term measures in shoring up Ghana's dependency on imports will be crucial in reversing the current state of the depreciation of the cedi. All these
That's exactly what we need to do.
All these that we have. But the point is that how we seeing the steps? Those are the arguments that we have to make. Okay, so we have to make, but because within the milieu of the problems facing the cedi is the concerns being raised by the TUC, and the TUC on the front page of the Ghanaian Times says that it says trade union attacks economy. On page 4 of the paper, we have a quote from the Secretary General of the TUC of Ghana, which has a government to roll back some of the many taxes it has imposed on people, including downward review of charges and fees. In addition, the government is said must consider reintroducing subsidies on utilities and fuel because the current rate of fuel prices and utilities is neither stable nor socially desirable for the economy.
Yes, but you see, it all comes back to the cedi. You need to import this crude oil. Yes. You see, that is the bottom line, and that is what I'm saying.
We're dependent.
Exactly, and we are not even coming out with anything to resolve the problem. And even if you say it is in the long term, start it today. When we said we needed extra electric power in this country, we started a bid dam. It took 4 or 5 years or even 10 years. We know we have reached somewhere. But we are not starting anything. There is no directive in the long term to resolve these problems. And we are keeping on seeing these things. Look, the basic hardships we are facing to do with fuel increment, now that maybe the world market value for the crude is still hovering around maybe $90, $100. But because, I don't know, but whatever it is, it might not have gone up too much beyond maybe $150 or $120.
No, it's not
I don't know.
$100. I think the last time I checked it was $98, $99.
Yes, so between $90 and $100.
Which crude? There are different types of crude.
But let's take the average crude or whatever we use. But the point is that even if you are importing the same quota of crude for refined in Ghana, and the value of your currency is depreciating so low, it means that you require extra amount of cedis to get the same amount of import. So at the end of the day, the cost of your fuel will have to go up, even though the cost of fuel or crude on the world market has not gone up. So it eventually comes back to this same weak currency that we are talking about. And you can only resolve these problems when you have better economic programs to strengthen the economy in terms of its export capacity.
Okay.
We are not doing that, and we are only compounding the issues with these restrictive measures, creating black market and panic situation in the economy. And then we are also shifting all the blame on the consumer. That's what government is doing. Because anytime they shift all the cost, every 2 weeks they do review of this fuel. And when they do that, the fuel prices is reviewed upwards. It eventually affects everybody's pocket, because prices of every commodity which takes transport will also have to go up. You have to pay your transport fares will also have to go up. It virtually affects everything. So it comes back, if the TUCs and all these people will have their peace of mind, it will come back to how good this government can shore up the economy in terms of better programs that will ensure stronger currency and ensure better exports and increase exports and reduce this trade deficit we talk about and all those things. But we are not seeing it. Panicky situation. Then they come with restrictive measures. Don't get the dollar, don't get the dollar. What is making people go for the dollar? They want commodities. Help them to produce it in the economy.
So the TUC's call is in the right place?
It's in the right place.
Because the point is that at this stage, government cannot provide subsidies on a lot of the things.
And the government is not responding to the situation why it's impossible for them to support with subsidies. That is the unfortunate bit.
Because we know that in the economics of it, John Kuma, you and I know that these are not realistic measures that we need to undertake.
Well, they are if government is determined to do, because at the end of the day, when you go that expansionary policy program, you create more jobs for the economy, you expand the economy and make it possible for people to innovate and come out with ideas that work. And that helps everybody when the economy is... Look, only about 8 to 10 years ago, or 5 to 10 years ago, banks in this country were moving from house to house asking people to come for loans. It didn't just happen. Somebody had to come up with things, programs that attract investment into the economy. And when those things happen, eventually you create value and demand for your currency, and these issues are resolved.
But it seems that we didn't also have the foundations very good.
We did.
Listen.
We did. It has just been run down in the past 5 years.
Okay.
By the NDC government.
Okay, you let me not go into
it
that.
Has been run down.
Now, basically, do you think that perhaps the trade unionized leaders are empathizing with the current state of the economy? Because already here lies in the case, the government came in with a directive that there was not likely to be an increment in the daily minimum wage, because that would have seen an increment in wages of public sector workers, etc. And the TUC and its allied members are crying foul. But before you do the argument, though, I think that the current Brent crude goes for $106.25, but light crude goes for 97.38, and the focus for the year is being projected by the close of the year to end around $110-11. So we usually don't use Brent crude here, do we? Okay, so
yes.
So it's still not more than $100.
No, but I said it depends on the type of crude.
Okay,
it's a debate. Roland, I think that, you see, when we're talking issues that, look to border more or less on the economy and the way forward, I think that it will do ourselves greater good if we deal with the issues rather than go into the partisanship nature. TUC is making a call, and the fact that they seem to be blaming the managers of the economy for bad management. We need to be asking critical questions. Is the TUC complaining about places where we have overstaffed such places by over 300 to 400%? Is the TUC complaining? Is the TUC looking at the productivity levels of its members? Is the TUC looking at that? Is the TUC supporting or playing its role in terms of labor adequacy on the market, qualified labor on the market? Is the TUC doing that? You need to look at yourself, introspection, before you come and criticize. Let me just finish.
They are unionized group.
You seem to be.
But who is supposed to make sure that there's positive output from the worker?
I expect the TUC.
There needs to be proper supervision on the part of the employer. Is that not it?
I agree, but I expect the TUC to one day come out and say, you know what, this ministry has too many workers. Only 5 people. We need only 5 people here, and there are about 15 people. That's about 200%. What is the TUC doing about it? You and I know that we go to certain places and there are people idling about and they get paid. The TUC is not talking about it. The TUC is not wondering how come a small fraction of the population tend to spend almost about in excess of 70% of what the entire country generates as revenue. The TUC is not worried about that. The TUC seems to be worried about what its members will take home in their pockets. The TUC is not worried about where Ghana is going for me. And we have seen them playing hanky-panky with issues in the past 1 year. And it is most unfortunate that we are going there. Let's look at the indicators. How do you tell me that an economy that is growing in excess of 7% has a weaker growth in the first place? How do you say that? You can say it is not a healthy growth because local participation and ownership is low. But the TUC is not even identifying that. How do we get local participation, for instance, in the telecommunication industry?
Well, they have identified it.
They have identified. So how do the TUC get its members to go in there? How does he do that? The TUC is not raising issues that ought to be or that need that.
Are you saying that the TUC is being parochial? They're just looking at their selfish.
Extremely.
Okay,
and for me,
what do you make of the call by the TUC that perhaps they want a resumption of the debate or the negotiation of the minimum wage? Because even though government has come out to give a clear indication that they're not likely to okay an increment because of relatively the current problems that we've got to do with financing, etc.
You have a government that when you complain, they say you are talking too much. What else do you expect the TUC, which is Union of Workers, to demand for? Do they have to...
Just better conditions of the
exactly.
workers. That basically,
and are they supposed to plan the economy for government? What is it that government is doing that they are not telling the workers? So that if they tell them, maybe they will be a bit patient with them. You are doing nothing, sleeping. And the only way to wake the government up is for TUC to talk. And the way they are talking is one of the ways for government to understand that they were put there to improve the welfare of the people and to help improve in their living standards. So you should not take the TUC on when they are waking you up as a government. Government is oversleeping and is becoming too lazy. The fact of the matter is that I agree with TUC on their call on government to, review the daily minimum wage, because I can assure you that in the past, you buy fuel every day, so maybe you understand what is happening. If you used to buy 20 cedis fuel a day, I believe by now you should be looking at 40, 50 Ghana cedis fuel a day.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is not ridiculous unless you don't go to the pump. It is the same. Cost of fuel has gone up so much.
From what to what level?
Please, when you were talking, I sat here. You are not the only Ghanaian. We all go to the pump and we know what I'm talking about. If I'm lying, those who are listening know. If you were buying amount of 10 cedis electricity or utility for your house in the past year. Today, you need about 30 cedis to 40 cedis to buy the same amount of electricity in your house, unless you don't buy it. We know that cost of living has gone up. Even those who use trotro, if they used to pay 50 pesos, now they are paying 1 cedi 20 pesos. Everybody is experiencing this difficulty in their system. And so if you are giving 4 cedis or 5 cedis as the minimum wage, it is about time you reviewed it upwards, because people cannot meet their daily expenditure that they go through in a day. Everything has gone up. And what they are saying, it is not alien. We all go through, we understand that living conditions in this country have gone up.
It seems that as a unionized group, or as the head of all unionized groups in Ghana, the TUC seems not to be empathizing with the state of the economy and perhaps what government fiscal management crisis is.
Listen, TUC has done something, especially for this government, that I haven't seen of them for a very long time.
What did they do?
When the over 100 and something increment came on the utility, they gave government enough space. They negotiated with them. They had to. What else should TUC do? I don't know what you expect of them. When instead of hitting the street in anger, they were able to tame their members and ask them to be patient.
Inciting?
No, but I'm saying that they have been a very, very considerate.
They've been very considerate
as far as dealing with this government is concerned.
And I'm surprised. So you think that the call they are making is justified?
And then I've explained the basis for that call, which we all go through each day, unless people are living in a different economy. But we see what is happening. The cost of living has gone up so much, you can't expect anybody to be living on that same minimum wage last year, because things have gone up so much. And you see the rippling effect of maybe just a 2% or 3% or 10% increment in fuel can be about 40-50% on other products in our economy. We know it. And it is practical. Anybody who goes through the system knows that there are hardships, people are complaining, there are no money in our pockets, and you cannot say that the TUC who go to work every day on transport and are experiencing increment on their transport fares and then buy electricity to power their houses do not know that prices of utility and living standards have gone up and should not ask for increment. They have to, and the government has to listen to them.
So the threat is on.
It's most unfortunate to hear his last submission, and I say that I understand why the NPP finds itself in opposition. They do not proffer a better or superior alternative to what is happening, as an opposition should do. Perhaps they think that the only thing.
Can you talk on the subject of
Exactly, I'm coming, and that is why I'm coming. Perhaps NPP feels the only thing.
I think it is better to be in opposition with ideas than to be in government with no clue on governance.
Please,
let's not no clue on governance.
Please speak to the subject of the TUC, because this is why because we have to move on.
Exactly, and that is why I'm coming. So if you could give me time. So if you look at the issues that has been raised by the TUC, for instance, they are talking about increment in wages and salary, that the debate on the minimum daily wage should commence. And you ask ourselves, well, we know in this country when the issue of the wage bill shot up drastically
as a result of the
single spine, without any compensated productivity from the workers' union. The TUC, were they not part of? The leadership of the TUC, were they not part of the whole forum? Are they not aware that whatever was discussed at the whole forum is being implemented by government? And as one of them, it was said that there's going to be a freeze on the minimum wage, and to which the TUC agreed. And that is why I said, for the opposition, they think that their only role is to just come out and criticize everything. And when you criticize, unfortunately for them as an opposition, you need to proffer a superior alternative, which they have failed. But this government has consistently be on top of the economic issues right from day one. Unlike the previous times when we could not forecast. For instance, now the TUC is in sync with government for this automatic adjustment with regards to utilities and regards to the petroleum. When it talks about if you used to buy fuel 10, 20 cedis, today you are buying at 40 cedis. It is ridiculous, because he himself does not understand the percentage increment. He doesn't.
Okay.
Because if he does, he will not be saying things
Please
like
wrap
that.
up on this subject, because I need to look at
what the government is doing in this time is to make sure that it's biting the hard bullet. It's tackling the bull by the horn. The government is not going around looking for the tail of the bull when the bull is facing the government. The government is tackling the bull by the horn. And what do I mean by this? We are taking in hard measures in order for Ghana or for the economy to be robust, in order for the economy to grow, in order for you and
George Spencer, your point has been made. Now let's move on the subject of the Christian Council of Ghana saying there has been a continuous decline in the provision of quality education and moral formation among students since government took over the management of mission schools in the country. By way of John Kumar, they're not talking about the NDC government, they're talking about the government. So.
But more so the NDC government.
No, they've not said that.
But you know, it was the NDC government that took away religious studies from our calendar. No, recently.
No, I'm not. We're not talking about religious studies. We're talking about maintenance of the schools and etc.
They're talking about moral education. Religious education was part of it to help groom people to be upright in their morality. So you cannot.
Do you think that returning the schools to the missions is the best thing to do?
I think so. I think so. It will help a lot.
Does it impact in any way on education?
Yes, it does.
Give me examples.
Values and customs, are created by the environment that you grow. And I remember when I attended Opokuare school.
It's a mission school.
It's a mission school. It's a Roman Catholic school. And I remember what they took us through every morning devotions, and you are groomed to have certain values of life. You have to pray, you have to that kind of thing whilst you study. Life is not just about books and academics. And even after school, I realized that life even goes beyond just the values of education. That even in our homes and where we come from, we are expected to have some values even when we come home. When you get visitors, how to welcome them and take them through Amania and all that. These things are not taught in school. So when you have the missions handling these things, it helps to groom the child in a particular direction of life in terms of inculcating moral values and helping the child to understand that there is more to life than just the physical outlooks that we see and the academic books that we read. So I will support that idea any day, any time. And I have met people who have been through Presbyterian institutions and they talk about good discipline and strictness in terms of behavior. And I have never been through that. I went through the Catholic one and I really appreciate it. But those who have been through Presbyterian training also talk about how good, how restrictive.
So, you're saying mission schools, and if they return back to the missions,
it will help a lot. It will help a lot.
I don't think so. Not necessarily. It seems largely to be basing it on the faith, on the Christian faith, rather than moral. And I went to Presec, a Presbyterian school, boys' school. I had a Presbyterian training, a strong training, which I am proud of. But again, we need to. I don't think that it's fair. If, for instance, if I happen to be in
a school that is non-denominational
in an Islamic school where I am forced to go to the mosque, and you tell me that is moral, I don't think so. I completely don't think.
But is that what happened?
No.
Yes. For instance.
No, listen. We do understand. No. Let's put the argument in perspective. And we have to wrap up on the subject, though. But let's put the argument in perspective. I think the whole argument is that the missions, when they are managing the schools, because of the strictness and the religiosity and the ability to be able to perhaps put a lot more values or impact positively on students, are able to create a certain level of conscientiousness, a certain level of discipline, and as far as the output of the student.
And when you say mission, it's not restricted to Christianity.
No. We're talking about missions.
Exactly.
We're talking about mission.
I know friends who attended a mass, Ahmadiyya, who were Christians.
All religious.
And so it doesn't matter what your religion is.
And the issue I raised was the fact that we seem to be conflicting religion with faith. For instance, when I was in Presec, no matter whether you're a Muslim or you are what, you have to go for Sunday service. You have to. Let's not forget, times have changed. The world has evolved. the world or Ghana is now an important player in the world than it used to be. We know more as far as we used to be with the world. Technology has also set in place. And one thing that I will say is the fact that let's look at those who went there. They are leaders today. I mean, they are the people. They are the older generation today. And if there's this argument we had recently, these are people who enjoyed almost everything free during their days. Today they have implemented policies where you and I will have to pay to get in there. I mean, for instance,
but because of what has changed, I think we're
exactly. So that is why I'm contextualized. We have to be realistic. Things are not the way they used to be. For instance, if you are talking about the standard of education, I would rather be looking at what we can specialize. I have said somewhere that when you are talking about the structural change of the economy, product manufacturing is becoming obsolete. I think I said it earlier. It is becoming obsolete. And why is that? Every country is now striving to produce to meet at least its demand. So what are you going to export? What you must export is to specialize in services. Do you get it? If that conversation is to come back to this issue of mission schools and whether they should be run by the missions or they are to be run by government. When the mission schools are in charge of the schools, do they produce better results in terms of academic, and do they produce better people for the job market? Those are the things we should be identifying rather than.
The answer is clearly yes.
Rather than looking.
You see, they do this. But I'm coming.
You have 30 seconds. I think my time
they
is
do
up.
these ratings of secondary schools when the WASSCE results come out. Check the top 10. They are missionary schools.
But these are schools that are being run by.
I'm saying they are. I mean, government can subsidize, but they are not saying government shouldn't come in. They are saying that at least we should allow the missions to have control.
And you think
the top 10, top 20 secondary schools check.
The gentleman who is talking is a member of the MPP. He's also a legal practitioner. He is John Kuma. John Kuma, thanks for joining us this morning. George Spencer Acquah is also with the NDC and also helping us with today's discussion. Thanks for passing through.
Thank you.
And that being for AM Talk, live on the Joy News channel of Multi TV. Next, we bring to you the news headlines on the hour.